Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vicki Poole. I'm a life coach, health coach, and a hypnotist at the Enlightened Peach. And this podcast is all about embracing our mosaic life. And some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. I will be your host and we'll have special guests from time to time. As a matter of fact, I have a wonderful guest for you today. And if you have any ahas or questions, please leave a comment or a voice message. So now let's get started. So let me pull up her bio really quick. I'm super excited to have Miss Waheeda here. All right. Waheeda Deen is a Reiki master, a psychic medium in South Florida, offering healing services in, is it Davie? Davie? Yep. And online or by phone. She spent 20 years working with children and families of trauma and the foster care system and brings this experience into her healing Reiki practice, Metafix Wellness Center. She offers tarot readings, numerology readings, birth chart readings, and even dabbles in astrocartography. Astrocartography. Okay, you'll have to explain that one. She has been a trained Reiki professional for over 5 years and focuses on helping people find balance and alignment. She is also an Access Bars Facilitator, offering clarity through running bars and teaching others to release the judgment we place on ourselves, which restricts us in growth and decision making. At most, a session feels like a great massage. At best, your entire life will change. How does it get any better than that, right? Clients are seen live at local holistic office partners in healing located at 12525 Orange Drive, Davie, Florida, 33330. Oh, I love that. Healing sessions at bars and Reiki are available Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Tarot readings, numerology, and birth chart readings are open daily. To book a session, you can text her at 954-480-3182, or there's going to be a link in the bio that I will be sharing. Follow her on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook, and those links will all be there as well. For free daily readings and view her free live shows Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern on Instagram or the Lotus and the Light Facebook group. Live shows are about spiritual topics and also offers a chance for free readings, which I take advantage of often. Don't miss it. In town, she offers a free monthly Reiki share the first Friday of every month at Partners in Healing at 7 p.m. Eastern, and a student Reiki practice circle monthly. Must attune to attend the circle. She is also a cannabis researcher at the University of Miami in the Harold Hart Study, researching the relationship between joint, blunt, and vape users and cannabis and heart health. And then there's going to be a link to see if you qualify for that. So that's a lot of stuff to unpack, girl. Some of it I knew, some of it I didn't know. So first off, what was that? Astrocartography?
Astrocartography.
What in the heck is that?
Astrocartography is looking at a map of the world and basically placing your birth chart on it. So at the time that you were born, there are different lines that will intersect on different parts of the planet. These parts of the planet may be more beneficial for you to live there, to find love there, to get education there. I'm an avid, Lotus and the Light Center student. So I actually have one of my lines running through Manassas, Virginia. And I was not surprised at all because I get all of my trainings done over there.
Wow. Interesting.
It was crazy. And then I have another one that runs all the way down Florida. I have literally lived from Gainesville to going to university there, to Palm Beach. I have clients, Miami, I have clients. I work in Broward, and that line just runs right through all of those. And I'm good to retire here if I want to deal with this heat for the next however long I've got left. But maybe
million years.
Yeah. I've got a lot of lines in Alaska too, so we've definitely got to travel.
Interesting. Well,
Get to
I
find
would be
some.
curious where I keep getting this hair in my face. I'd be curious about my lines because, I take classes all over the place. I mean, they're in California, they're in Florida, they're in Utah, they're, all the different places. But I've always, well, I can't say always. The only time I have not lived in Georgia has been when I was in like the third grade. We've moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, to help my grandfather. We came back to Georgia. And then I went to college in North Carolina, in Charlotte. And other than that, I've really always lived in Georgia and not on the north side of Atlanta, except for one little year stint on the south side of Atlanta. So it's really in the same area that I've been most of my life, and my family too. So it's interesting that is a thing I didn't even know existed. I'll
Oh,
have
yeah.
to check that out. And and it's funny, I'll just share really quick. My daughter, she's sometimes I call her a nomad because she just suddenly decides, I can't remember if she was 17 or 18. I don't know. But anyway, she said, I guess she might have been 18. And she said one day, she said, I think I want to move to Colorado. And I said, really? She said, yeah. And I said, well, do you know anybody there? No. I said, when are you thinking about moving? She said, next week. It was like, what?
Oh,
And she moved. She's been to Denver twice. She lived in Hawaii. She's lived in Portland.
mhm.
So it's like she just goes places, and this is, I guess, her home base. And then
Mhm.
she filters out. And I've never felt that was an option. I really never felt the draw to move away. I like to go visit and stuff. So I would wonder, thinking of what you were just talking about, I wonder if that means that her topography, is that how you call it? Astrocartography.
Astrocartography. Yeah.
If that has veins running in those different places. Is that what that would kind of mean?
Yeah, so the lines run through different places, and there's some things that it has a lot to do with your planets and your alignment as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so there
And
are some
she's a
signs
Gemini.
that you shouldn't like live on, or you shouldn't have relationships. Like if a guy is from here, like you probably don't want to really do that.
I bet I've dated some of those people that were in those areas I shouldn't have been in. You know what I mean?
Do.
All right. So I got totally off topic with that,
That's
but it
okay.
was like as soon as we were, I couldn't pronounce it. I thought, well, what the heck is that? We need to talk about that.
Mhm.
So what I'd like to do now is kind of step back a little bit and let's explore a little bit about when you were younger. And if I'm remembering right, you've had this calling for the cards and all these different things for a very, very long time. And so I'd kind of like to, let's dive back into a place where it suddenly became apparent to you at whatever age that this was something that was different from other people.
Oh, definitely. So I would say I had my awakening around my late 20s.
Okay.
I was taking some classes and I learned that I actually turned it off when I was a child. So when I was a child, about probably around 7 or 8 years old, I was thinking I was having nightmares because I was able, well, basically to see through the veil. So I was able to see spirits and see things around me. And that really scared me, obviously, as a 7 or 8 year old. And I
Yeah.
didn't really have the family members who understood that that was something that was normal in our family, or normal in our lineage, because it is. And so I never really got asked the right questions, like, why are you crying? Why are you having these night terrors? Why are these
So
things
what did
happening?
they say?
They just thought that I woke up every night crying and I was having night terrors, because night terrors is a thing, when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling them, what I saw, and they're like, "Oh no, that's not real. Like, just."
Oh, it was just a dream. It wasn't real, that kind of thing. I
Yeah,
think
very
that's what we all
dismissive.
say to little kids, though, to be
I
perfectly
think so
honest with you,
too,
you know?
kids have an active imagination, but
Yes, yes.
mine was real.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
you said, so before you were started waking up with these terrors and everything, did you feel anything? And I know that's going back at a younger age where sometimes that's really hard to remember back to,
mhm.
but and as a young child, you might not even say to yourself, well, this is weird.
Right.
you know, I don't know. So, what are your thoughts
I
about prior to that?
I would say that I definitely had a pretty good psychic sense when I was a younger child. I
Hmm.
knew people that I was okay with. I knew people I wasn't okay with. I knew
Meaning
people
you
who,
could feel their energy, whether it was good or
yeah,
bad.
I
Okay.
could definitely sense if they were a good person or not a good person. And that even went to my classmates at school and parents and teachers who were involved in school, just kind of knowing like when a teacher really didn't like me that much and when I was pissing them off. And it just is something that I thought I didn't know when I was a child was different. I thought everyone felt that way. I thought
Hmm.
everyone could see those things the same way that I could. I didn't realize, most people just kind of walk around without any of that happening.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, because like I can say, it's like I had a conversation not too long ago with someone and we were talking about this kind of thing. And they said, well, all I know is what I know. So I just thought everybody had those experiences. And I guess we all feel that way when there's something that happens to us all the time. It's just normal. And we don't question and say, do you ever feel like this? For one thing, we don't want to bring attention to we feel this way in case they don't.
Right.
Because
Right.
we'll be ostracized, especially as a young child, right?
Mm, absolutely. You had to be either right or wrong. There was no gray.
That's right. That's right. And you had to be in the right place with the right people, or you were just, you weren't talked to, you were ostracized, all that
Yep.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So did you feel, since you had some of these experiences as you were getting a little bit older, I mean, especially before the 20s, at some
Mhm.
point you had, I would assume that you kind of start feeling like, maybe this is not something I want to talk about because I don't think anybody else is feeling these things.
So it's interesting. When I was growing up, I didn't know that I was doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
So for me, when my friends would have problems and I would respond to them, I mean, I had a really tight knit group of best friends from like middle school onwards to high school. And I would just always say what they needed to hear. And I didn't know I was channeling messages at that age. And they would have these problems, and I would just basically spit out a solution, not realizing I was probably channeling that from their guides and my guides
Hmm.
and helping them heal in a way that they needed to. When I was older and we got together, probably, I don't know, 5 or 10 years after high school, they were like, no, you always knew what to say. And that was still even before I realized I was a psychic medium.
Okay.
Um, and so they're like, no, you always had the right thing to say, like all the time. Like you can just spit it out. It just comes out of you naturally whenever we have a problem. You know how to fix it and you know what to say. I was like, really? Huh. I never realized.
Well, hearing that, did it ever give you a feeling of, wow, I'm so excited that I was able to do that? Or did you have any apprehensions with, I'm glad I said the right thing because I really didn't know what the hell I was doing? What were your kind of thoughts?
That's a great question. I always felt like I knew what I was saying was the
Okay.
right. I was even a peer counselor in middle school,
Hmm.
and in high school. I was in tons of different leadership roles. So I was always advising people, helping people. I always thought I would actually become a therapist when I got older, but I didn't want to just be restricted to therapy. I didn't want to listen to people's problems all day, which is funny because as a psychic medium, I do listen to your problems, but I help you with your
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
just listen to
I
them.
can say becoming a psychologist and that kind of thing is a very daunting thing because you are
Oh,
so held tightly in these
mhm.
constraints of what you can say, what you can't say. And, it's nice to be able to do these kinds of things away from that so that you can let your intuition be your guide and know how to help people.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's great. So I'm looking here at your thing here. So, what is an Access Bars Facilitator? And I know we talked about this the other day, but just for the sake of our listeners or our
Sure.
watchers, kind of tell me a little bit about what that is.
Sure. So I received training in order to run your bars. Access Bars was founded by Gary Douglas and Dane here, and they are from good old Texas. And they have essentially created a format where there is energy points that are on the sides of your head that we can run energy through. So when you first have a session, I'll open up your energy, allow your energy to flow up and down and through you, and kind of connect this circuit in a way. There's no music, there's no essential oils. It is not like Reiki at all. It is a down and dirty, let's get to business kind of thing. So a lot of times people will feel stuck. And when you feel stuck, it's probably because you can't make a decision, and there's probably an underlying cause of why you can't make that decision. So I will get you on my table. I'll start with your base bars and defragment a lot of the things and that you think should be. A lot of times we're fed so much information all day long, we have these judgments that build up. I have to look like this as a psychic. I have to do these things as a medium. You don't. You can make and do whatever you want to create. And that's the point of Access, is to access the energy and it's almost like a manifestation in a way. Anything that you want and you desire, you can have. And this allows you to feel clear, to feel light, to feel free, and to really dig down deep of how you feel about things and bring that to you. So as I'm running your bars, every bars point has a different name. There's money, there's sex, there's happiness, there's love, there's joy. And out of these points, you will inevitably always talk about that thing while I'm running that bar. So it's a conversation that's happening back and forth. Let's say I'm running your money one and you're having some blocks about money and you start telling me about some issues that you're having, then I'll dig deep. And it is very like, there's not a prescribed way of doing it other than the points, because I really tailor my messages to what you're saying. So let's say, I don't feel like I can make money doing this on a regular basis. Okay, well, all the ways that you believe that you are blocked and unable to access any energy in order to financially find financial freedom, can we destroy and uncreate that, please? And you say yes. Yes, right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. And that's the clearing statement. That wipes out your slate clean. And it might not happen with the first one we go through, so we might keep digging a little deeper and a little deeper. After an hour and a half of that, I've pretty much wiped you clean, and you walk out there ready to open your LLC, ready to start that business, ready to buy that house. I bought my house. I'm a first generation immigrant that's actually here that was able to purchase a home, and it was after I ran my bars and I took bars. It's kind of like limitless what we can do and what we can create. So
yeah, that's cool. I've seen a similar thing, but it was actually online. I participated in a class, and she said the things that kind of sounded the same as what you said.
clearing statements, yeah.
So that's what just popped in my head when you were saying that. So are you able to do that online too?
I can. And, it's probably my own fears that I don't do a lot more coaching that I can, because I really got used to doing it in the Reiki room or in the Access Bars room or one-on-one. But I could definitely do that in a group format too, and figure out even just one-on-one coaching in general, and figure out exactly what has been going on with you and talk your way through that. The thing is when you pair it with running your bars, it's like 10,000 levels of expansion.
So is running your bars a physical thing that you have to do?
Absolutely. So it's
Okay.
touching specific points on your head and allowing that energy to run and allowing you to just talk those things through. Because even
Okay.
as you're talking them through, I'm teaching you, does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? And why does it feel that way? What's the root of the root? What's coming to mind? Because there are some things that we learn and imprint on us from the time we're 8, 5, 3 years old that we don't even know we're still holding.
Right. I do a lot of like parts work and things like that, where we go back and kind of dive into some of that stuff. And it's always amazing to see what comes up. But I'm just curious. Now, I'm just asking a question here because, I have no idea. But if you do the touching, can you not if you've got somebody in front of you, have them touching themselves and telling you the same kind of thing. And the reason I'm thinking this is because, I have the Healy, which is the frequency device, right? And you hold it in your hand and you can feel the frequency, you can feel it in your body and everything. But you can also send that frequency, just like you can do Reiki on, online. I can send that frequency, to whoever it is, and then there's tapping and all these different things. So is it possible that you could do kind of the same thing by you directing someone where to touch?
So anything is possible is the answer for an Access Bars question.
Okay, because
Second,
I'm thinking that sounds intriguing. We should try that.
the thing is I've been trained to know where those points are, to how to feel them, because it is a technique that you have to learn. Just like
Mhm.
Reiki, you have to learn how that feels to open up your Reiki, how it feels to close down your Reiki, how it feels to send your Reiki. The same thing with Access Bars. You've got to learn it and understand it to know if you're on the right point. And then while you're a person who is getting your bars run and you can self-touch, you are also going to be like really buzzy, like the energy is going to be flowing through you. So it might be very difficult to concentrate and keep your hands up.
Okay.
I have had my husband open my centers up before, because there was an opening part, and then start with running my bars. And then I've picked up on like running the rest of them myself. And it is similar, but it's definitely not the same. It's almost
Okay.
like when you do self Reiki, it doesn't feel the same as when you go get a Reiki session done.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But nothing is impossible.
Yeah, just curious, because I'm thinking if you could do that, it would open up so much opportunity for people that are watching this or listening to this, because they're all over the place and you're in Florida, so they might not be able to get to you personally, and you never know. I have clients that come to me from all over the place, so they might be inclined to want to just go ahead and travel to Florida and see you. So let's just think they are. And if not, maybe you could do some experimentation with some of that, because I would love to know how that
How
would
that goes.
work.
Well, one good thing about Access is it's accessconsciousness.com, which I could have put in my bio, but there you
You
can
still
find
can.
local access. Thank you. You can find a local Access Bars facilitator near you. So there are facilitators everywhere, but I won't say everywhere, because I do have someone that goes on my live sometimes and we can't find anybody in Alabama. Like I guess there's no access out there. We need to write to Dane
Literally.
and let him know. So, and I am actually working on becoming a trained Access Bar facilitator. Well, it would be trainer. So once I can do that, if you have 4 or 5 people together, I'll fly anywhere and train you guys. And you guys
Okay.
can do group shares, and you guys can
Cool,
be
cool. So, all right, for everybody that's listening, you can kind of keep in touch with Waheeda, and you can get a group of friends together and have her come to you. Now that sounds amazeballs, I will say.
definitely.
Very, very cool. All right. So let's get back to when you were in your 20s. You said that that's when you had your full awakening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
So
so kind of walk us around, what did that feel like? What was that? And it may be some other people may see when you're talking about it, they may say, "Oh, that's what happened to me and I didn't know what
yeah,
it was."
yeah.
I think
Mhm.
we have so many times we have something that goes on with us and we just think, oh, it was my imagination, or whatever, and then we hear somebody else, and then all of a sudden we have this epiphany about, wow, the same thing was going on in my life and I didn't know it.
Definitely. Um, I felt that way a lot too with some of the people that I follow. So I was about 28 years old. I had had my first child and I was working in the foster care system. I was the person who was actually training foster parents and training adoptive parents and supporting them. So as a supportive role, I had a liaison who was also a foster parent, and she had just received terrible news. A girl that she had had since birth in her home was being sent back home to a relative she barely knew. And this was really traumatizing for
How
this
old
foster
was the
parent.
little girl? Do you
She was
remember?
only about 2, and she had been with her since birth,
Yeah,
which is a harsh reality of the foster care system. But
definitely. I can attest to all that. So go
yeah,
ahead.
so I my foster parent was devastated, and she had become the foster parent who also supported other foster parents as a foster parent. So, I was like, well, what do you need? Let's go get your favorite food. Let's just go drive. Let's leave the office. We don't need to be here. You're more important, and your well-being and mental health is more important. Because of course I was doing what I was doing before I even knew I was doing it.
Right.
And
Right.
so we go drive around, and she's like, do you mind if I put this CD on? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Now I'm dating myself because it was a CD. And I'm like, whatever you need, play whatever you need. Is it Metallica? Like, what is it? So she's like, well, it's this lady. Her name is Abraham Hicks. It's weird. It's hard to explain. Just listen to it. I'm like, okay. So she starts talking. And of course, Esther Hicks starts channeling Abraham. And I'm like, instantly, literally, it's like something awoken in me. It was almost like this jolt. Like I needed a part of my soul that needed to just remember. And I started listening, and it made so much sense. Everything she was saying made so much sense. I got super quiet, and my foster parent was like, are you okay? Like checking on me. And I was like, yeah, I'm really okay, actually. This is awesome. What is this? What is this happening right now on the radio? And she's like, oh, well, she channels, information from her, essentially what is her spirit team. And she answers questions, and usually you can find a lot of insight in the way that she speaks and the language that she uses, because it's so uplifting and it's always filled with joy. And Abraham, as we all probably know, if you haven't listened to Abraham Hicks, definitely listen to Abraham Hicks on YouTube. It will change the direction of your entire day.
Right.
Let
Have you
alone,
ever seen her in person?
no, she is coming to Fort Lauderdale in
Uh,
October.
I've
So
been
excited.
I've been 3 times, and
You
I have, and she's been in Atlanta. And just let me share real quick. One of the things, I had been following her for a long time, and so I was so excited to go to this session. And so there's a ton of people in there, and she's nowhere to be found. There's a podium sitting up front and everything, and all of a sudden she walks out, and she's talking to everybody. She has this a little video thing she puts up, and she's just as sweet as she can be. So when she says she's going to channel Abraham, she walks behind the podium, and it's just to have a thing to hold, right? And she's standing there, and as soon as she starts channeling, I could feel the hairs on my arms stand up, and the energy just coming. It was almost like it from my toes. It was coming up all the way up, and like when it got to the top of my head, it was like I could feel this. It was almost like this vibrating feeling of the air. It was amazing.
Wow.
And then when she came out from behind the podium, when Abraham was there, and she started calling people and all, it was like that sensation wasn't unpleasant. It was great. It's not like it was an unpleasant experience, but it continued until she took a break and walked out. And then all of a sudden it was like, it's gone. Then when she came back, got behind the podium, Abraham came back again. Amazing. And I was just blown away. So it was like after that, it was like I gotta see her again. I have never been one of the people that got pulled up into the hot seat. But every time somebody is asking the same question that I was thinking, now if I get
Yep.
called up, I'm going to ask this. So
Mhm.
it's amazing. But let's get back to you.
Okay. I'm excited now. Imagine how large her aura must go in order to
Yeah.
fill up an auditorium like that. That's insane. I love it
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. It was amazing. All right. So you were talking to your friend in the car.
Mhm.
Keep
So
going.
after Abraham, I learned about how to manifest. And so manifestation and what that actually is and how that actually works. And I had just had my first child, and my second, actually, I think I had probably had both of my children. So they're only a year apart. And we lived in Gainesville for quite a while, where I met my husband, and we really needed some support. So my goal was to move back to South Florida so my sisters could be close to my kids, they could have their aunts and I could have some babysitters and just some help in life in general.
Bonus.
Yeah. Plus I love it down here. I love the energy, Gainesville is a different kind of vibe. So, I wasn't also able to keep advancing in my career, probably because Spirit was trying to send me back down here. And so I wrote on a business card and put it in my wallet because we still had wallets back then too.
I still
And
have one today, so.
well, good. I am guilty of just using my phone now. So I wrote on the card, I will move to South Florida and make $50,000 a year. And I'll get that job. And that was my manifestation because it had to be clean, it had to be clear, it had to be direct. And every day I looked at that business card because every day, for the most part, I went in my wallet. And within probably about a month or two, I got a call from one of our best friends who was working at the local child welfare agency down here. And they were hiring for literally my dream job. I had worked in child welfare for so long and I really wanted to be a development manager. I don't know what it was. I just wanted it. And I was really good at marketing. I was really good at planning events and I just wanted to do it. And he called and said, they're hiring for a fundraiser, a development manager down here. I can get you an interview. And I was like, do it. Let's do it. So I have the interview. I come down here, literally child in tow with me, dropped my child off to my sisters, went to the interview. The interview was amazing. It was just perfect. I met a really great mentor who was a part of my life for quite a long time. And of course, when she was like, it's only $50,000, is that enough? And I'm like, yes, that's enough. I'm only making 30 something here in Gainesville in the country. Like, it's fine. That's great. I can live off of it. Not realizing South Florida lifestyle and what that was all about, but it's okay.
Yeah,
We make
that's all right. It got you where you needed to be, right?
Exactly. And I got the job and I moved down here and it was like everything just kept happening. I kept finding the things that I needed to do. It's like I was tapped in and tuned into the energy and the energy just kept flowing. The right people kept coming into my life. I was able to do the things that I wanted to do. And I started opening up psychically and developing with my cousin Uma, who is my mentor. So then I started taking classes. I started learning about what my psychic abilities were. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified to not know what I already know now to be my truth.
All right.
And
So pack that in just a little bit. Let's back up. So explain what that means that you were terrified.
so I definitely had a lot of judgments before I was open to what I would say is connected to the universe, right? Or my connection to the universe. So I was afraid of what I didn't know. I was raised Muslim. And so we had very strict confines of what things are, what God is, what, you know, energy is, what life is, what behavior is, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, just like every other religion. And I did spend a lot of time in the Catholic religion as well growing up. So I had no idea about like, was this okay? Was this still something that I was not like, was I going to go to hell for doing this?
Oh, yeah.
I was just afraid of being who I was. And everyone talks down so much sometimes about psychics and mediums and that it's such a gist and all these things. But being one, I can tell you, it is absolutely not.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. It's kind of like that. Probably comes from however many years and lifetimes back where they burned witches at the stake, because, that is brought down from generation to generation to generation. So if you even had the ability to tell what plants would help for something, a lot of times they looked at you as a witch doctor and you could be burned at the stake. And I'll share this really quick, and you may have heard this and I've shared it on another podcast before, but I'll go ahead and share it again. It's about how they've done these studies about how things go from generation to generation in a lineage. And they did this experiment with monkeys. And so they took these monkeys and they had them in this area, and they, monkeys love bananas, they love playing certain things, and they would let them just be. And then they decided that they were going to teach them that something was not good. So what they did, if I'm remembering right, and I do not remember all the details, but so I'm just speaking out of turn here, but it was like they would put bananas, let's just say bananas at the top of this pole, and the monkeys would want this, so they would get up there, but as soon as they would touch the banana, they'd get a zap. And over time, they wouldn't go up the pole. But the interesting thing is, new monkeys would come in that had never experienced this, and they would know right away, don't go up that pole. And the other interesting thing was that these monkeys had babies. The babies knew not to go up that pole. And even the ones that had not been in the cage before when all of that was going on, they had babies that knew not to go to the pole. So it was like it was inherently from their knowledge, it was passed on to the next generation. And even the psyche of the monkeys, once another monkey was put in the mix that had not experienced all this, they suddenly knew because of the psyche of these monkeys. And that, when I heard this experiment, and it's a lot more in depth than that, but that's how I, remember the best way to tell it. And when I heard that the first time, I thought, well, that just makes so much sense. That the reason, you can have some things that are going on in your life that could have happened, a generation back or a generation back from there, that for some reason it was so strong in those people's lives that it's still part of you today, even though you weren't part of it.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Absolutely. I actually when I was doing my Access Bars class, Uma cleared us of having been burned at the stake. It was one of the clearings that she shared. And the shudder that went over my body was kind of insane. And I was like, wow, that was real. That really happened. And, because there's your heritage and your generational, but there's also your soul. Your soul's been here many, many, many times. And that's probably another episode. But we carry things within us and within our DNA and within our soul that I think hold truth. So you're definitely right. I think that I was afraid of what I didn't know and what I always thought had to be black and white. And I did not ever feel like I could live in the gray. I didn't even think I made decisions really in the gray. I was either right or I was wrong. And I'm a Virgo. So I was basically always right.
Virgo too. I'm always right. and when I'm wrong, I'm still right. So
exactly. 100%.
So you're at this place where you're feeling all these feelings and you're a little bit scared. And I would kind of think from what you're sharing, everything is part of the fear could also have been, and just correct me if I'm wrong, of judgment from others from having these gifts, right?
Absolutely. I worried a lot about what my family would think, what my husband would think. Even just what my friends would think, like, would my friends even get it? Would they think that it was just a bunch of, insane kind of stuff? And it's funny because I started even knowing like it was time to move into doing this because I was literally pulling tarot card readings at work. Like my coworkers were like, "Oh, you learned how to do this? Do you want to practice on me? Do you want to practice bringing in a spirit and like having me validate them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go to the break room."
Oh, that is so cool. Tell us more about that.
I was like, you guys really want me to do this for you? Like, it was very interesting and it was really eye-opening, and it kind of made me feel a lot more comfortable with doing what I was doing.
Validation.
Definitely validate. And a Virgo, we're very it's an earth sign, so we're very grounded, and we kind of, I might not see just in black and white anymore, but I do still appreciate a good validation.
Yeah. I think most everybody does. I know I do.
Yeah.
So you started doing all this with your coworkers, right?
Yeah.
So then how did you branch out from there?
So I actually had a coworker who was like, "Oh, we would start buying crystals and stuff together." And it was like, the gateway drug is crystals.
Yeah.
And we'd go to the crystal store, hang
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
find some things. And I started listening to this really great podcast called Psychic Teachers. I still listen to them today. They're amazing. And I started learning a lot more about what was out there, started taking development classes. And then my coworker was like, "You should take Reiki with me." I had no idea what Reiki was. And this was where your psychic ability really kicks in, right? I didn't
Mhm.
know what it was. She sent me an entire email that I think to this day I still haven't read, about what it was and the history and all this other stuff. And you should really research it. And I was like, "No, it's cool. I'll be there. I
Yeah.
just know
Yeah.
I have to do it." And it was $400 for my Reiki 1 class. And I didn't know where I was going to find the money, but I sure did pop up, because that's how spirit works. That's how energy works, right? When
That's
it's meant
right.
to be. And then funny enough, we were very like, we're both Virgos, the girls who took the class, and we didn't really like a lot of people in our business. So the other people who signed up for class didn't go. So it was just the two of us that day. So it was like
Wow.
having a
How's that
one-on-one,
for manifestation?
right?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget her. My Reiki 1 teacher was amazing. And when I walked in that room, before she was reading things out of the manual, I was like there's a certain part where it's like something about sulfur, and it has to do with water. And if you're Reiki attuned, then you know what I'm talking about. And I was literally having the taste of sulfur in my mouth, like a metallic taste happening in my mouth. So my psychic senses were on like 100 that day. It was exactly where I needed to be. I could feel the energy of Makai Usui in the room. I could just feel how honest and true that this was for my life at that time. So I started with my crystals as my gateway drug. Ended up in Reiki 1. And I sat with Reiki for about a year before I really started working on myself and my own self Reiki. But knowing what I know about Reiki now, it was doing its work for me.
Mhm.
After the attunement, it was definitely bringing things into position and place, and putting me where I needed to be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, from what I understand, like, I've done a little bit of Reiki classes, but I'm not certified by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, it's been so long since I've done it. All I remember is doing this and sending some energy. So if that tells you anything. But when you started working with the Reiki, did you feel like I don't know. When I've done some things, it was like when I start doing it, I almost feel like I'm lifting out of my body,
Mhm.
and it's just very intense, but it feels like a long lost friend kind of thing. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I
Did
do.
you have
Yeah.
that kind of feel with that?
I felt like this was something that really helped me, and it really allowed me to feel more. Sometimes when, I definitely, so we always say as healers, we ended up here for a reason. Like we had a lot of things we had to heal before
Right.
we got here to be able to help you heal. So I had a rough life. And Reiki really allowed me to start feeling those things, to dive into the shadow side of a lot of that, and to work through what those blocks were, what those energetic like mishaps were, why I was making decisions the way I was.
So
Once you understand the
so stop
chakras.
just a second.
Mhm.
So, one of my things I love to hear about is how something was really bad and it created the space for you to be here.
Mhm.
So go back, if you're open to it, go
Uh-huh.
back and kind of share a little bit about how you had this stuff that was going on and when you were young that created this shadow, so we can see a little bit more in depth of you coming to this amazing place. Is that
Sure.
okay to share?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So I was raised up until about 13 in a two-parent household, but my mother was definitely mentally ill. And I don't think in my culture, in the West Indian culture, mentally ill is a normal thing, just like in most African American Black cultures or any other kind of culture. It's not normal to go to a therapist, not normal to take medication for your ailments or anything like that. So, growing up, it was just something that as the older child, I was placed in a position to basically raise my younger sisters. They are 10 and 12 years apart from me. And my aunts will tell you now, I never thought you'd have kids. Like, never did I think an ounce that you would want to have kids because you raised your sisters. And that was kind of enough. So I was a kid raising children, and was placed in that position because my mother was just not really there mentally. Her and my father split up, and then my dad had to run a household, take care of children, and I felt like it was my responsibility. So I
So
picked
were
up
you living with your mom or your dad?
my dad. My dad got custody of us,
Okay.
and my mom was living with her mom. And she had definitely had a mental breakdown, I would say, as an adult now, as I am now. She definitely had a mental breakdown when I was a kid, and that happened. And she just kind of went into a deep depression. They later said different things like she was manic depressive and going through a lot of things, which I kind of think manic depression runs in our family too. But I also think being a psychic medium makes you have a lot more depression types of traits because you feel so much so deeply. If you're not managing your energy well, if you're not taught to manage your energy well, you can easily just lay in bed and be depressed for days,
Mm-hmm.
hands down. So coming from there, I was always forced to, or felt like I was always forced to put everybody else before me. It was
Right.
always like, what do my parents need? What does my mother need? My mom and dad are fighting. What do I have to do to make them not fight? And I felt like I had to be the one all the time. With my siblings, it was making sure they were fed, they were clothed, they had everything taken care of because my mom was just not mentally able to do it. And even when she was around,
Mm-hmm.
I think she did her best. And I had some years of being like a kid who was just playing like, her radio, laying on her bed, looking at the clouds go by, which were probably some of my fondest moments in life. And I I would say after the divorce, it became my responsibility. They became my responsibility, and my dad made it that way. My dad was like, if we're gonna move them down here, if you guys are gonna like separate from your mom and everything, like I need you to take care of them because I have to go to work. So it was also that like
And how old were you at that time, did you say?
13,
Okay.
13 years old. I had many aunts and uncles who were around me who were a support system, I would say, but I would say everyone tried to mind their own business and passed a lot of judgment. And, they did what they could probably at the time, but um, they could have probably done more.
Yeah. So
So,
when you think back about that,
mhm,
um, and you think about how you were feeling in that
yeah.
space, what were you feeling? Do you remember?
I would definitely say I turned off my own feelings about my own self. So the only people who really knew how I felt was that core group of friends that I was talking about earlier who were in my middle school and high school with me because they got it. Like they just were the only people that I could talk to
So what was
about
that
anything.
feeling
What was the feeling of,
that you were feeling? Because I asked you, what were you
oh,
feeling? So
oh,
instead
right.
of you,
So
yeah,
I said I turned it off. Like I turned feeling off.
but
So
you
I
had to have
was
been feeling something to decide to turn it off. That's what I'm
I would
getting at.
probably say love would be the feeling that I would have to identify to be able to be loved and to love because there was so much tumultuous things going on. Like I kind of viewed love as something that was like gonna lead you down this path if you
Hmm.
decided to love. Even religion in itself, like I was like, well, my parents can get divorced and this is what my life can look like. Like God is definitely not real. And I stopped going to like madrasa or Sunday school and pulled away from all of that too, and just kind of did what I had to do to get out, which
Hmm.
was like what I needed to do education wise so that I could leave this situation and just become better.
Okay. So how old were you when you finally left?
I was 17 actually when I got into UF and I left and went to college. I was not supposed to. I was supposed to go to like FAU or some, whack school down here. And and I got an acceptance letter from UF, and I never thought I could even, like, I applied on a whim. Like, I applied because I knew the application people I had got. I was really smart. I am really smart. And I was in a leadership camp at Nova, and which is a university down here. And you had to be chosen to even go to this camp and different things like that. And I met one of the admissions coordinators, and she's like, well, what do you mean you're not applying? Like, why would you not apply? Like, you're literally, I had 5 leadership roles my senior year. I was like student government secretary, president of like 2 or 3 other clubs. Like, I was kind of the bomb. And I definitely didn't need a hall pass. Let's put it that way.
Okay, got it.
And I enjoyed it. I loved doing it. So I was like, I guess I will apply and just see what happens, whatever. And I was a poor, quote unquote, child too. So I could apply and not have to pay the fees and anything. So I just did it. And I was shocked that I got in. And that recruiter signed my letter. I still have it somewhere. Like, congratulations, love, Giovanni.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah.
So so when you decided to do that, did you, I know, because you said you were responsible for your siblings and all that stuff. So did you have any angst about that? Or were you just like, oh God, I gotta go?
No, I was terrified and scared. I didn't know how like anything would get taken care of, who would take care of them. And that's kind of a trend that I still even feel like as I move job to job, like I feel so responsible for everything and everyone in my life, like all the time.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And maybe it's a Virgo. I don't know.
Yeah. And with them, I had this best friend when I was from middle school to like high school and some college. And he was like, you don't understand like what you did. Like, you got into the University of Florida. Everybody doesn't get in to the University of Florida. You have to be really smart to go there. And I was like, okay. So, and he's like, I just need you. He was like, emancipate her, Lincoln. I just need you to go. Just go. Be free. Live your life.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll do it. I'm going to tell my dad I'm going to go. I got scholarships. I got everything paid for. I got a Kiwanis scholarship. I got a teaching scholarship because I was like the president of the teachers club. Never wanted to be. Well, I am a teacher, but I'm not like.
You are just not a school teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these things. And so everything was paid for, and my dad really couldn't say no. And I had to convince him because, I'm Indian, right? So I was like, well, no, they have the best business school in Florida. And so I'm going to go because I'm going to become an accountant. And he's like, okay, fine, and then you'll come back home and, take care of the kids and yada, yada, yada. Totally. 2 years later, changed my major to family, youth, and community sciences, which is essentially social work at the university, and minored in education, minored in youth. Lived probably my best life ever at UF. Like, those days are some of the best things ever in life. And I met my husband, and yeah, I mean, after I met him too, I was like, I'm not going home.
Yeah.
After you have that taste of freedom, you're like, why? No,
yeah, it's hard to go back to constraints. And it's like people that have been entrepreneurs and having to go into a corporate environment after that, it's almost like the cage going,
Oh my God.
So it's amazing.
That never happens.
Yeah.
Yes, I've got one foot out the door right now, and the other foot's coming out October 31st. So
all right. Well, congratulations on that. So now you've spoken it out to the gods. So it is done, right?
It is done on the best day ever. Samhain, Halloween, whatever you want to call it. The Day of the Dead, the next day. It's the perfect time for letting it go.
That's right. So go ahead and tell me just a little bit about how things are for you now. I know you've gone through all of this wonderful awakening and learned all these amazing things to help yourself and to help others. And you and I've worked together a few times, you helping me helping you. You know, it's been great. And actually, I met you because of another friend of ours that we both know, right?
She's the best.
Yes. So it's always cool. Like, that's one of the things I think is good about getting into groups, because I met Hannah in a hypnosis course that I was in. And so then we became friends, and then I met you through her. And, you know, and it's like these, when you have the openness to get into a group of some kind, you don't know what your purpose for being there is, you know. It could be, you know, that there may be somebody that they know that really needs to hear what you say. So I always am excited when I become friends with someone that was in the group. And I will say, every group I've been in, there've been at least one person that I've come away as a good friend. And that's pretty impressive, I think. Don't you have the same kind of thing that happens to you?
Yeah.
You just froze, or was it me?
Oh,
what?
Did you get me? Hannah and I took mediumship development training together.
Okay.
So her and I connected through mediumship, and then we've pretty much stayed like BFF since.
Yeah.
And she's she's really the only human I trust to do my Reiki, even if it's virtual, I don't care. And and read me and get all deep into my spirit team there.
Into your psyche.
Into my psyche.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what your mindset is now and all the different wonderful things that are happening in your life now.
So funny enough, I would still say that it's terrifying, that making big decisions is hard. And I think anyone who doesn't appreciate that making big decisions is hard has something else coming. Because the reality is we're doing something new every day. And
we should be.
Right.
A lot of people don't. And I will say that making change and making decisions like that is hard. And that's why a lot of people don't do it. They don't stretch themselves because it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. And Hannah was the person who taught me, is it fear or is it excitement? And I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
It feels the same.
Because it feels the same. And I was like, oh my God, it's excitement.
That's right.
So I would say my mindset now, I definitely spend a lot of time on a daily basis working on my mindset. As a psychic medium, I am tapping into a lot of different energy fields, different universes, dimensions, whatever you want to call them. Probably also another podcast. And
we'll start taking notes. We'll do a bunch of these.
We'll have follow-ups.
Yeah.
And I really feel strongly that if you can't come into a session or to somebody that you're going to work on their healing with from a grounded, healed place, then you're doing them a disservice. You're putting your own issues and your own things at the forefront where it's really about them.
Right.
And that's one of the hardest things I think we have to learn is to control our mindset, to not influence them based off of our judgments, but to channel the information that we need to with our spirit team. And how you do that is you build a relationship with your spirit team through meditation. As a medium, we blend our energy with our spirit team. So we're constantly able to know when they're here. Like mine have been here this entire podcast. It makes my eyes feel a little blurry, but I'm here. And, I know that they're here and supporting me in what I'm discussing and what I'm talking about and guiding it too. So I would say that's what I do for my mindset. I meditate daily. I do blend with my spirit team multiple times a week. I journal and I actually pull tarot. So the reason I have this filter on is because I have tarot cards everywhere right now and I haven't cleaned them up. So, so I pull tarot for myself on a daily basis and I see where I'm going, and what my day is going to look like and checking in with my energy. And, yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of other things I do for my mindset. How deep do you want me to go?
Well, let me just ask you this real quick. When we're talking about your mindset and everything, so what are you what are you aspiring to right now that you're feeling this little bit of extra excitement about new adventures that you've got going on? What are those?
So hot off the press, I am going to be doing tuning fork therapy this month.
Okay.
So I'm going to be learning how to do tuning fork therapy in the auric field and get into the nitty gritty because I didn't even know you were holding. Well, I kind of knew you were holding blocks and there's holes in your aura and things like that, but I just use Reiki for that. I didn't know tuning forks was able to help heal that as well. So I'm excited to add sound therapy to what I do because it's such a big part, even in my meditations. Like I use solfeggio sounds on a regular basis, on a daily basis. In my sessions, I'm using, videos on YouTube, but that sound component is a really big thing to do with your healing and with your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to bring that in. I recently last week at my Reiki share, I am a psychic medium. And now as a medium, we have the ability to channel your past loved ones. I specifically don't channel past loved ones as a reading option yet because I'm still developing. I'm probably 4 or 5 years into my development, and it can take up to 10 years to develop well as a medium where you can constantly do this as a business and your body is used to the fluctuation of energy. So, I had these new people come to my Reiki share and they were like, I literally said, I don't do channeling spirits. Okay. I'm very capable of it, but I don't do it as a service. So she's like, oh, can you read my cards, after Reiki share? I'm like, sure, no problem. So I was like, what is your question? And she's like, I want to know if my brother's okay. And I was like, my girl, your tarot cards are not going to tell you that. You need to tap in. And I just said I don't do that. So I was like, spirit led me here and brought me here to this situation for a reason. I understand boundaries, but I was very clear with her and I said, like I said, that's not something I offer, but I will happily try to bring him in for you and see what I get. And we'll just see what happens, right? So she said, okay, no problem. I channeled an entire message for her. I was very much aware and on point of her brother. Her brother had just passed 3 months ago, excuse me. And, she was just concerned about different things. So, he validated that it was him multiple times. And I brought messages through to where the next day she said, I have another friend who would like to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Just come on. We'll try again and we'll see what happens. But I believe in balance and yin and yang. And so I still read her tarot cards and charged her for reading tarot cards because I was like, I'm not trying to mess with the energy balance here.
That's right. That's right.
But it pushed me to and the next day I did it again. And it was the same. The two people that came through were the two people she was interested in connecting with. And I was like, okay, listen, I'm hearing you guys, spirit team. I'm hearing the occurrences that are happening here. And I meditated on it. And if I did not hear the name Carlos the Medium several times in my meditation, when I trained with mediumship with Uma, Carlos was also co-training with him. And Carlos's way of training is very like practical. I would say he's like this is what is happening, like step by step. And it's very clear and I really understand it. And I love like his videos and how he explains things because I can really resonate with it in how I learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I looked on his website and I didn't see anything. And I was like, oh, whatever. He probably doesn't do it. And I was like, no, your guides were very clear. So I messaged him and was like, hey, do you happen to mentor people for mediumship? And he's like, yeah, I'll send you an email. I was like, what?
Wow.
So I'm going to start working on being developed a little bit deeper in my mediumship to be able to offer that. Because I don't have like UK Arthur Findlay money right now. So hopefully I'll build up to that and then go to the UK and train at Arthur Findlay as well. Or even Lisa Williams has a really great mediumship development program, but again, $5,000 in.
Nice.
So I'm super excited. And that's what I have on my horizon. For my business, I am working on trainings. So I kind of like secretly train is how I say it. So I'll have clients that will book me and say, or have conversations really, and
Mhm.
say, I really have no idea about this, that, and the other. And I'm like, just book a tarot session with me and we'll do coaching. And I will coach them through what they need to learn. And it's been the clairs lately. It's been the basics of like manifestation clairs and things like that. So I'm going to be working on developing my own training program so that I can offer trainings on a monthly basis or regular basis. Um, I've I sneak it into my Reiki group. So I have my Reiki attuned students who they are my students, and then there's some of their friends that are also Reiki attuned. So we'll get together, and I've done different things like auras, aura readings, because I kind of forget sometimes how tapped in and how many things I have done and trained in,
Mhm.
that I can't just, put it together for a training for other people. So we're going to do plants next week, and we found some plants to rescue, some plant Reiki, and I'll probably build in some psychic stuff in there and start offering that a little bit more openly to the community.
Wow, that sounds like some amazing stuff coming up. Congrats, congrats. Well,
Thank you.
let me ask you if you'll do one thing, and if you don't want to, just say, we'll do that another time. Do you want to
Okay.
pull a card for everybody?
Oh, I would love to.
Okay.
What psychic medium would say no to that?
I know, but I can't just assume, you know what that means.
Oh, isn't there a Southern saying about assumptions?
Uh-huh.
Isn't there a Southern saying about assumptions? I forgot what it is.
Make a let's see, an ass out of you and me, assume.
There you go. All right, Spirit, what does the collective need to know? Ooh, very nice. All right, so we have the Page of Swords to start out with, and that is you ready to cut through the bullshit. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
You're ready to stopping yourself from stopping you from allowing yourself to allow in the greatness. There is a lot of heaviness that you're carrying with the Ten of Swords. That's like feeling a lot of things on your plate, a lot of things that are happening at one time, and ignoring that those things are occurring, and just kind of pretending like, I don't have to deal with this. I can just leave it alone. Like I could easily think of 10 things right now that I have to get done that I'm not going to get done before I go to sleep, but it's okay because I'm going to eventually get it done eventually. It's that feeling of
Mm-hmm.
it just being too much and too overwhelming. But you have the Five of Pentacles in reverse. So whereas you would normally upright be thinking, I have these things and I'm not good enough. I'm not able to do these things in this way. You're walking past the power of knowing that you can reach out for help, right? So in reverse, the Five of Pentacles is telling us that you have that ability. You have that ability to call on those who can help you, who can mentor you, who can guide you, and allowing those things to come together for you so you can get back to that self, that baseline of cutting away the things that no longer serve you. If you're overwhelmed with all these things, just pick the things that you need to do and hone in on knowing that you are good enough. You are good enough to do what it is you want to do and what you're here for. And if that is not a summation of our podcast today, what?
I know. I know. Well, thank you so much for that.
You're
Th-
welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Ah, wonderful. Well, like I said, I appreciate you being here so much. And I know all of the listeners and watchers do as well. And so, anybody that is watching this, please subscribe to the channel, like the channel, listen to it, share it out, because we really want to grow and offer a lot of people to see the guest and take part in whatever it is that they offer. And I will be um, on the descriptions and everything, I'll be putting all of your links on there so everybody can see your bio. And they'll be able to see the things about you. And I'll actually be putting some of my information on there as well. So anybody that would like to reach out and speak to me, you're more than welcome to do that. I'll have my email address there, which is just theenlightenedpeach@gmail.com. And then I am on Facebook and Instagram Facebook, it's just the Enlightened Peach, and on Instagram, it's the_enlightened_peach. And I'll share that in there too. So if somebody were to just be right now thinking, oh, I want to talk to her, and they don't want to wait till to look in the comments and get all the links, what is the best link for them to best way for them to get in touch with you?
Definitely. You would want to text me. You can text me at 954-480-3182. I do have a day job, so I will reply eventually, but I usually reply right away. And I do sleep. So, people want to text you in the middle of the night. People actually need to sleep around here. No, but that is the 100% the best way to get me is to text me directly, or you can message me on Instagram at Metafix, Metafix 1111. So 4 ones. And I have a special for your guests. So whoever listens to the show whoever listens to the show and clicks on our website to book a session, and you type in the code word PEACH, PACH, you will receive 10% off of your reading or your healing service forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it greatly. Well, I want to tell everyone that I have enjoyed immensely having you on here, Waheeda, and I love doing this podcast and giving me a voice and giving you a voice, and hopefully everybody else benefits from that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.